it was just under a year ago that I had started to plan my very first camping trip on the motorcycle. I had only been riding for about 8 months at that point on street. Been riding my whole life, on motorcycles, but only been riding street for about 8 months. I had planned a trip to June Lake. And the reason I chose June Lake, well, there's many reasons why I would choose June Lake, but the main reason why I decided to go camping at June Lake was because it was my father's dream for he and my brother and I to all have matching Harleys and for all of us to ride up to June Lake, California. It was his dream. He always wanted to, he talked about it ever since we were children. He's always wanted to get matching Harleys just so we could all ride to June Lake together. And it wasn't even specifically for camping. He wanted to probably just take the bikes and stay in like a hotel or a cabin or something. But I figured I love camping. I ride an ADV bike and it shouldn't be a difficult trip to pack up some camping gear onto the bike and go June Lake and fulfill my father's dream without a Harley and without him and my brother. And then tragedy struck, and my life almost ended when I was hit by a drunk driver. To say it's been a struggle to get to this point would be an understatement. Both physical rehabilitation, mental rehabilitation. I don't know that mentally I'm completely ready. Physically, I'm definitely not completely ready. And that's kind of why I'm doing this and why I'm doing this now. I finally came to the conclusion here recently that I'm obviously never ever going to get back to anything close to the condition I was before the accident. Life offers a completely different set of challenges than it used to. And I honestly don't believe I will be able to do this in 3 to 5 years. The 8 herniated discs in my back are not going to get any better. Matter of fact, the only path to any kind of comfort in my lower back is for them to fuse the vertebrae, and I'm too young for that. So what my surgeon basically spelled out for me was that I have a long life of pain ahead of me. They're doing all they can to make me comfortable, but it's just not happening. So I really don't think I'm going to feel good enough to continue to be able to do this in 3 to 5 years. So I'm feeling good enough now. I feel like I can do this now, just barely. So let's do it. Let's do this before it gets to the point that I can no longer fulfill my dad's dream. So there I am. I don't really feel like I'm ready for this, physically or mentally, but I'm about as ready as I think I will ever be. Incredibly happy to have you along the ride with me as I memorialize my father, visit the place where I spread his ashes, and fulfill one of his dreams, which was to ride my motorcycle all the way to June Lake. So that is our goal. That is our activity. That is what we are doing today. So far, so good. Weather's 60 degrees, 7:30 in the morning. And that temperature is only going to climb as the day grows longer. So I'm really hoping to get past the hottest part of the journey here quickly, which is Mojave. beach is full of people today. Made it, Pop. Made it. Well, Harley, we were matching Harleys, but made it, Pop. That's his mid-lip right there. There's a whole other lip that takes you to the top.
buddies? What you guys doing? You guys find anything good? Oh, hi. Is that Mom over there?
It's awful. It's not the worst thing I've ever eaten. So it is 11:30 p.m. Monday, July 28th. I'm going to bed. It was a long day. Long day. I sat at the fire for hours. I spent the last hour cleaning up, to brush my teeth, wash my face and hands and my arms. Started getting data transferred from the memory cards to a hard drive. So I have a solid hour or so before I'm gonna actually be able to pass out. So I'm going to just sign off with you now because I'm tired. Yeah, I don't have to think about vlogging. That's that, Cracker Jack. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Fancy seeing you here at Silver Lake. Oh, slept okay, considering. A little after 8 a.m. I'm gonna get up right now and start packing up. I gotta be out here by noon. It's gonna take me 3 hours to pack up, but just in case I want to start getting going so that everything's on the bike, and when noon comes around, I'm ready to ride off. So let's get started. Reservation to get into Yosemite, but I can at least ride up to the gate and back down. It should be a beautiful ride regardless. And this is where I spread my daddy's ashes. Love you, Pappy.
He wasn't gonna do this. But this meal looked amazing. Look at Tyler Bar in June, California. We needed a break off the bike. I've been camping, riding, I went to Yosemite today, going all over the place. I needed to sit down and eat some real good food. So I came to Tiger Bar where they never disappoint. They do a lot of barbecue stuff. I do tacos on Tuesdays. Today's Tuesdays, so they Taco Tuesday. Do a lot of really great stuff. I was just feeling like a nice little sandwich and turkey club sounded amazing to me. And they do their homemade chips. When they say homemade, they didn't make these yesterday. They made them right before she put them up on my plate. Very nice. Well, maybe they're still hot. Yeah. They put a little bit of, I don't know if that's Old Base seasoning or Lowry's or something, but they put something on it. Excellent stuff. So I'm digging. We're gonna do a little impromptu right through Legends here in June Lake, California. We're freshly cooked bacon, fresh tomato, lettuce, fresh cheese. Let's see. That's fresh carved turkey. It's nice and juicy. It's super juicy. Bacon was really good. Really good. I like simple. I don't always need crazy meals. Yeah, the tomatoes are nice and fresh. The lettuce is nice and fresh. Really good cheese. You don't lose it. I've got a little sourdough. A little fresh sourdough too. Nice and toasted. Oh. You know the rules. It doesn't hit the ground. You go to town. We got some extra pickles. Fantastic. Iced tea. Totally box. It's not super hot outside. It's only about 75 right now. It might peak it. They won't peak at 80. They won't get as high at 8, maybe 78 degrees. It's hot still today. But on the bike, just moving. The sun's on you. That black coat I'm wearing with the airbag underneath. Start losing the moisture. So my dad and I used to come here all the time. Whenever we'd come to June Lake, my dad would come like once a year. He and I would come. His dream was always for us to ride motorcycles here, and it just never happened. So yeah, we'd come here and camp every year. And sometimes one time I brought like my camp setup, and he was super impressed in how I was able to do like all my camping out of 2 Rubbermaid vents. And I set him up really nice. I gave him this really nice cot with really nice air mountains and everything. So it's like really simple. He was like super impressed that I was able to do so much out of my PT Cruiser. We'd take this truck one day and just stick in the back of his truck, and we wouldn't even bring a whole lot of camping gear. We took him to fish is really what we came to do. We loved fishing. We would always, eat at the camp. But one night we would always come here and enjoy at least one meal. And they always had music playing, and people playing pool, and it was just a nice time. It was a good, nice time with really good home folks. What a good trip. All right, we're going for segment 2, quarter number 2. I like that they use real wooden sticks without the little fuzzies on them, because people use the ones with the fuzzies, and the fuzzies get in your food. Quarter number 2. Really good bacon, man. Perfect. I love club sandwiches. Pretty basic, but perfect. Okay, so that one started out with a real good taste of bacon. Then it hit some tomato, and then it landed in the end on some cheese. Really good chips, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. That's it. doing it, and I don't want to have to have a big dinner. I like this rock. Exactly what I needed to. Ross Tiger Line, another legend of the bus. Yes, they don't lose.
So I had to break down and get a hotel. I ended up squirting a crap ton of chain lube all inside my pannier, which got all over the chargers for both of my cameras, and I can't put my laptop in there now. So saw that the Villager Motel had a vacancy across the street while I was eating, so I went over and got a room. At least I can take a shower.
So, I knew how to get a room. Long story short, my chain lube decided to explode inside one of the panniers, and that was very problematic for me, staying in a campsite. So I was really just overwhelmed with it all and saw a vacancy sign sitting right glowing in front of my face as I was sitting there dealing with the chain lube, and so I booked the room. It just made sense. So second night of moto camping turned into night one of moto touring, getting all my videos transferred over, and I got my bags all cleaned up. I ate a real meal at a restaurant, and I am now going to watch a little bit of YouTube and go to sleep. Because first thing in the morning, I am heading back home, and I want to be through and past Mojave before it gets ultra hot. So I'd like to leave here probably about 7 o'clock in the morning, which means I should be able to get in and through Mojave by at least 11 a.m. So shouldn't be too bad by then. And then hopefully home by about noon. So that's my goal. That's what I'm going to try to do. So see you on the ride tomorrow.
moonshine here. I was working for a meal trainer during meal days, and this random guy from Tennessee just walked up to me and gave me a bunch of moonshine, and I drank it and barfed it up. Good times. Thank you. Have a good day. the embankments on both sides of the freeway, and the wind just swirls inside of it, and you end up getting fucking hit by both sides of the wind. It's really crazy. Camera's about to die. I am about 40 minutes from my house, so I'm going to wrap up this trip now while I have the cameras all running. So, trip was a great success. I didn't have any complications on the ride up or on the ride back so far. So 40 minutes to go. Not high-fiving anybody yet. The trip was really good until I got here. The wind is out of control right now. I mean, it's got to be at least 25 miles per hour. It doesn't seem like it when you look at the trees, but it's really influencing the bike, like, significantly. Day 2, I didn't end up camping at the campsite I had rented. I ended up getting a hotel room, which ended up being like a blessing in disguise. I really hated spending the extra money, wasting the money that I spent on the campsite, but I really, really needed the rest, and it was a good opportunity for me to just relax and, you know, recoup for the ride home. I can't wait to get home, get all this gear off the bike, get everything unpacked, have a little post-mortem, go through the gear, and, you know, segregate the stuff out that I absolutely did not use on this trip, and then that way I don't have to bring nearly as much stuff. I brought a lot of stuff that never came out of the panniers. On a moto trip, it was safe to have it, but at the same time, I ended up packing a whole lot of stuff I just didn't need, so that sucked. But all in all, and again, not high-fiving anybody because I'm not home yet, the trip up to this point was really, really good. I was lonely and sad at some points, thinking about my dad and stuff, but all in all, it was a good experience. I'm glad I did it. I'm so glad I got a chance to do this for my dad. It was his dream, and even though he didn't get to fulfill his dream, at least I got to fulfill it for him. I love you, Papa. I miss you, and I'm happy I did it. I wish you were here with me, though. It would have been so much better. With that being said, I'm going to exit the freeway right here, head the last leg home, take Avenue D to my place. Thank you to all my members and subscribers and to everyone who supports the channel. I appreciate you all so very much. I cannot believe how many people we have subscribed to the channel now. So thank you everybody for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you. And I will see you all in the next one. Gear up and ride safe. Special thanks to all my channel members: Demolition Crew, Ruka and Sweet Dream, Wrecking Crew, you all rock.